welcome to another edition of Metis Warrior here with Timothy and Alexandria.
Hello, everybody.
And so today, buckle up. We got one for you. Definitely a good show for you today. What we want to talk about, of course, will be the Pope's visit. But before we can get into the Pope's visit, we first have to understand the difference of Catholicism and Christianity. So, Christianity, if you're a Christian, you're a follower of Christ. Catholicism takes God out of the throne and replaces God with Jesus, which is wrong. You never replace God with the Son of God. Yeah, you give praise to God and you give thanks to Jesus for dying on the cross for our sins. That's definitely something that you do, but there's a huge difference between Catholicism and Christianity. With that being said, most Catholics actually believe in the teachings of Christianity. Although they call themselves Catholics, they go to the Catholic Church, but they don't understand what Catholicism teaches. Catholicism teaches that Jesus is God. Jesus is not God. If you read the Bible, Jesus is the Son of God, and he tells us to pray to the Heavenly Father, our Heavenly Father. He tells us to give praise to our Heavenly Father. He tells us to serve to our Heavenly Father. And in the Bible, Jesus sits at the right hand of God. In one verse, it says that Jesus sits on the right hand of God. But to understand that, you would actually have to look at one of the other books of the Bible that was not included, that was actually removed from the Bible. And so, if we're just going to use the actual Bible, which I use the King James Version Bible, I'm sure a lot of you out there do. But you can compare it to any Bible, even the Catholic Bible, whatever Bible that you got, compare it with that. We know that Jesus is at the right of God. Jesus is not God. So let's understand that. So when you pray, pray to God. And so it's very important to understand that Catholicism and Christianity is two different things. And that's why we're going to deal with this topic on the Pope's apology and some of the strange and weird things that he was saying.
And again, there's a lot to unpack in regards to the papal visit, July 24th to July 29th, 2022, when the Pope came to Canada. There's a lot of controversy. And the one thing that I want to, a lot of people were up in arms about the newly paved road to Massachusetts. And previous to the Pope coming, it was a road full of potholes and bad need of repair, and it seemed in record time it was being paved for the Pope's visit. And some community members were joking that they were going to dig up the road after the Pope left. So that's a hell of a lot of money to spend on the Pope coming.
Such an insignificant person, the head of the Catholicism, the head of the Catholic Church there. And one of the great trickeries the devil uses is he tries to get you to praise someone other than God. That was his whole mission. And when you take Jesus and put him in the throne of God, put him in the seat of God, you are not actually worshiping God. Again, we have relatives that are Catholics, and we know that they do share the Christian belief, but they don't understand Catholicism, but yet they go to the Catholic Church. So you have to actually dig into Catholicism.
And the thing that sort of got a lot of people up in arms when the government of Alberta, the Alberta Transportation, put out a notice that they were going to be doing the road improvements for the up and coming papal Pope visit. So the question is, why wasn't this road repaired? Why did it take a Pope to have to come to pave a road? I mean, the people, don't you think they deserve to have a road that was paved and not have the Pope come and have it? What about clean drinking water and everything, clean drinking water and all that? I mean, why would you have to worry about paving it for just the Pope? And there was a lot of controversy in regards to that as well. And I think the biggest takeaway from the Pope's visit is they wanted the Pope to rescind the doctrine of discovery in 1452, and that was a huge thing. And for people that are not aware of the doctrine of discovery of 1452, it allowed to invade, search out, capture, vanquish, and subdue all Saracens and pagans whatsoever, and other enemies of Christ, wheresoever placed, and kingdoms, dukedoms, principalities, dominions. And it really, it was very horrific. And this was by Pope Nicholas V, who was the papal bull of 1452. So, in a sense, the popes granted to kings and their empires certain permissions among those rights to conquer the lands of indigenous people where Christianity had not taken root. There's that word again, Christianity not taken root.
Well, let me explain this, okay? And I want everybody to listen very carefully. After the flood, when you had Noah reestablishing basically how to worship God, there's this thing that come about called the no we call it the Noahide laws, right? So basically it's 7 rules, 7 laws that you would follow, and it's called follow the 7, go to heaven, right? So if you go to the Bible and you actually look at the Bible, there's a story of a lady that comes up to Jesus and she's asking Jesus for help. And Jesus says, I have not come for you. I've come for the children of Israel, the lost sheep of Israel. I've not come for you. And the disciples are in the background, and this story is in the Bible when you read it, and they're saying, get her out of here. She crieth for you. Get her out of here. Get her out of here. So they're trying to get rid of this woman. They're not trying to get rid of her because what they're saying was that she was worshiping wrongly, or she was going to go to hell the way she was worshiping, because if they thought that, they would immediately try to assist this woman, which they would reluctantly were not wanting to do. They were not wanting to help this lady. And so Jesus was very clear who he came for and what he was going to do. And so he did end up helping the lady. But the point here is that when you look at the Noahide laws, you can't come to a land of people that are worshiping the Creator and say that they're worshiping falsely. So what you're going to do is grab their children, throw them in residential schools, and then you're going to kill off the tribes. You're going to do this, and this because they're not following your faith, because Catholicism is one of the most evil religions in the world. And again, a lot of Catholics do not even pay attention to this because they're so colonialized these days that they just go to the Catholic Church. They think they're worshiping right, but they believe in the Christian path, but some kind of way they're confused because they don't understand the Christian path is not the Catholic path. It's not Catholicism. And again, these people in their mind and their hearts, they worshiping, they think in the right ways, but they're going to the wrong churches for worshiping when you go into a Catholic church. Because if you actually look at Catholicism, that is not Christianity. And that's why you hear a lot of people say there's Catholics and there's Christians. And a lot of people say you're a Catholic or a Christian, because a Christian is a follower of Christ, and a Catholic takes Christ and they convert Christ into God. And Christ is not God, he is the Son of God.
And it's interesting to note that now that Pope Francis has made his first official speech of apology, we can see what's in it, and it's more clearer of what's missing. And he said he's deeply sorry for the actions of many members of the church, but he did not apologize for the actions of the church itself. So, in my opinion, laying blame on some of the people in the church, but not putting the Catholic Church as a whole. And these atrocities were really carried out in the name of the Catholic Church's, again, doctrine of discovery. And one big thing is the Pope failed to mention the sexual abuse. He just did not mention the sexual abuse. He meant, mistreatment and all that. But
that's another difference between Christian churches and Catholic churches. Now, Catholicism is not the only religious faith that tries to masquerade as a Christian church. Any church, any faith that puts Jesus as God and tells you Jesus is God, these are the churches that were going around and molesting children and killing off the natives. These are the churches responsible for this stuff. It is not Christianity It was Catholicism and other faiths that were masquerading as Christianity that was doing this. And so we know that child molestation is rampant. I mean, it is just so much history of that within the Catholic Church, but people are so proud to call themselves Catholics, and I just don't get it.
And again, the doctrine of discovery really provides a religious justification for colonialization and the seizure of land and resources away from anyone that is not a Christian. Don't you think it should be anyone that's not a Catholic? Again, they keep
Yeah.
interchanging Catholic and Christian. And again, he mentioned the verbal, physical, and psychological abuse that was rampant within residential schools. But I mean, sexual abuse. I guess he's sorry, but he's only sorry for a small part of what happened.
So he's trying to put it on the Christians. He's not saying Catholics. He's trying to put it on the Christians. He keeps using the word Christians, Christians, and the Pope knows damn well Catholics and Christians are two different things. Again, Christians follow Christ. Christ served God. Christians serve God. Yes, we give thanks to Christ for dying for the sins, for being crucified for the sins of the world. For everybody that wants to accept Christ, you are forgiven through the blood of Christ. But you have to serve God, and the Catholics serve Jesus and remove God from that seat, and they put Jesus in that place. And that's trickery. That's some, I mean, if you don't believe me, research Catholicism and research the history of the Catholic Church. And it's not just the few in the Catholic Church. Catholicism as a whole is responsible for colonialization and for actually killing off a lot of people that didn't believe in their ways.
Well, here's a statement from the Pope himself when he was in Mascowis in Canada's Western Alberta province, and I quote, I humbly beg forgiveness for the evil committed by so many Christians against the indigenous peoples, end of quote. This was what Pope Francis said. Again, he's saying it's the Christians
So that's
that
a quote.
committed evil.
That's a quote from the demon himself. And so, yeah, trying to use trickery and confusion by labeling Christians and not referring to Catholics and other churches that were masquerading as Christians.
And I think it's really important for everybody to realize is during the Pope's visit to Canada, what we're witnessing is the crafting of consent by colonial pawns to give the appearance of forgiveness and atonement so things can continue unquestioned in the name of progress and reconciliation. Smoke and mirrors again used during this visit again with the Pope interchanging Christianity and Catholic. I mean, maybe the Pope himself doesn't know the difference between Christians and Catholic.
He
Why
does.
mislead
That's
people?
because what Satan does. Satan misleads people. Satan causes people to worship falsely. Even though we got relatives that are Catholic, when you speak to them, they understand that Jesus is not God. Jesus is the Son of God. But there's a lot of Catholics that are being preached, and they're just not paying attention. They're being taught that Jesus is God, and that is a lie. That is an absolute lie. And then I'm sure a lot of Christians are listening to this show, and they'll talk about the Trinity. The Trinity. And so you got to understand the Trinity is not, everybody's not co-equal. There is no equal to God. Okay, there is no equal to God. There's one God. And yeah, there's the Holy Ghost, there's Jesus, and there is God, our Heavenly Father, the Creator. But there is no equal. And again, if you go back and actually look at the Bible and stop listening to the priest up there that are probably lusting after your children out there, if you actually go and read the Bible and study it, you will understand Jesus' teachings were clear that we are to worship and serve God. And if you go back and you study the whole reforming and repopulating of the world after the flood, when it came to Noah, there was the 7 laws established, the laws that were very straightforward on 7 laws, and any religion that followed the 7 laws actually follow the 7, go to heaven. So when that lady came up in the Bible and she was asking Jesus for help, and Jesus said, I am not here for you. I have not come for you. This is true. This is in the Bible. This is what he had said. I am not. Now, don't get me wrong. Jesus died for everyone. However, he did not come for these people. He came for certain people, the lost children of Israel. That's who he came for. He was very specific in that. And the disciples, they were saying, get rid of her. That's in the Bible, folks. Does that get preached? Does that get preached where you go to church?
And I think to further what Timothy is saying, the confusion against God and Jesus, and it was sad to read one of the Metis leaders when they were being interviewed. They were speaking with an elder, and this is the confusion with the elder. The elder said, uh, Pope is God. The Pope is God and also represents God. It's sad that an elder that was probably abused at a residential school is making the statement that the Pope is God.
The Pope is not God, that's for sure. You got, again, the leader of the most evil church in the history, the most evil church. If you look at how much blood and molestation is on that church's hands, and so in Catholicism, period. And so for that just goes to show you that you can't listen to all elders, because some elders are very confused and some elders are not. And again, these elders, they go back to their childhood when they was abused in residential school, some of them, and that kind of affected their way of thinking. And so this was either beat into them or instilled into them at a very young age. So the Catholic Church succeeded in that, and they got convinced, and they think the Pope is God. The Pope is not God. The Pope is the most demonic person walking the face of the earth.
And there was also a lot of controversy all over social media. People were attacking Chief Wilton Littlechild, who is the former Truth and Reconciliation Commissioner and also a residential school survivor, for gifting Pope Francis with a headdress. And I know a lot of Native Aboriginal people in the United States were completely outraged. And somebody made a comment is that, would you why would you gift an abuser a gift? And I know a lot of tribes, Indian headdresses have to be earned. Those have to be earned. And it's really it's sick. And a lot of people, in my personal opinion, I don't think it was right to give Pope Francis a headdress.
It wasn't right. It wasn't
it's
right.
totally wrong on
I
so
mean,
many levels.
yeah, that is just sickening and disgusting that these people will give this guy gifts. I mean, he should come there, apologize for what his pedophile priest did, and he should actually take accountability for what the Catholic Church has done to the natives and actually our ancestors. And what he should do is give a genuine apology and not say Christians, because we know there's Catholics and there's Christians, and then there's churches that masquerade as Christians. But if you look at their teachings, they're very similar to, a lot of them is very similar to Catholicism. And anything that puts Jesus in the seat of God or tells you that Jesus is co-equal to God is not a Christian church. Jesus never claimed to be co-equal to God. Not one time did Jesus say he was co-equal to God. There's only one God, and there's one Son of God, and there's one Holy Ghost.
And it's also, a lot of you may not know that in 1958, John Diefenbaker was presented with an honorary headdress at a residential school in Saskatchewan. Total appalling. There's a picture of him with his headdress standing in front of Indigenous children in a residential school in Saskatchewan. Absolutely disgusting. And we're talking about giving the Pope gifts. I don't agree with that. What about the Vatican giving all those indigenous artifacts back where they belong from the indigenous communities they were taken or gifted from? There's no way that the Vatican should have one of the greatest collections of indigenous artifacts in the world.
Stolen. They say it was gifted, but if it's gifted under like a certain pressure or a certain threat, then it's not really gifted now, is it?
And talking about this papal visit and stuff, there's a lot of things again to unpack. And what's interesting to note that again, we talk about the MNC president Cassidy Karen. We know.
Oh, what a joke! What a joke! Let me say this before you get into that. When the elections come for these organizations, Alberta, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, guess what? And Ontario, guess what? We're going to be there. We're going to be there doing shows covering these elections. And every single person that has supported Cassidy, you got to vote their ass out of office. You got to vote their ass out of office, because if you want a fair Métis government, you're not going to have it under Cassidy. You're not going to have it under Portress. You're not going to have it under these supporters of Cassidy. We know that. We see that. We hear the complaints. And so these people have got to go. And Lisa Smith, we are not impressed with you. We are not impressed with you at all. I'm just going to go ahead and say that right now. It would be great if you would resign from the Métis Nation of British Columbia. You go ahead and just resign and do your people a favor and step down, because you're not impressing us one bit. If you're supporting Cassidy, you're in the wrong, Lisa Smith. I don't know. Is she supporting Cassidy? If you're not, then okay. Then I'm wrong for saying you are. But I still don't support you, Lisa, because you're very secretive. You don't like questions. Like when we reach out, try to ask you questions, you're very avoiding. Like you don't want to answer those questions. And guess what? We know the background of what happens after we send you questions. And you're telling people the questions we're asking is inappropriate. Challenge us on that one, because we had the proof on that. But you know what? Here's the thing, Lisa, you should step down as MNBC president, and that's regardless if you're supporting Cassidy or not, because you are not transparent. Cassidy is not transparent. Now, the MNBC as a whole, I will say, has gotten better. The MNBC as a whole has a lot of great people there. The MNBC as a whole is transparent. Lisa is the roadblock to total transparency. Let's be clear there. Audrey,
Don't get me started on Audrey, please. We don't want to take up this whole show with, I mean, leaders that are not doing serving the people. That's just
yeah,
and you know,
leaders that actually don't do the right things for the people. And man, we got a long list of that stuff. But yeah, guess what we're waiting on? Election time.
And you know what, folks? The Métis National Council, as it stands today, is not transparent, is not accountable, does not answer Métis questions. And the thing that still bothers me is, of course, the Métis National Council. They shunned the victory of Frog Plain, Battle of Seven Oaks. Didn't even post one thing about it. So I would maybe ask that Cassidy, since you're running a national organization, educate yourself on Métis history. Don't pick and choose because maybe these are heroic individuals
She
are
don't
from
like
Manitoba
she don't
or
like all the
whatever.
ancestors.
Well, I mean, you can't pick and choose who
It
you
seems.
honor. You honor all the ancestors. We're still waiting for any kind of financials from the MNC. They issue a statement of claim and then they drop the ball and they refuse to answer any questions. But I can tell you what, Cassidy and the MNC can sure post about the Pope's visit. And this was a tweet on July 26, 2022. Yesterday, representatives from Métis Nation of BC, Alberta Métis, Métis Nation of Saskatchewan, Métis Nation of Ontario, they joined Cassidy Caron to speak to the media regarding the papal visit and apology. Can you believe it? What about speaking to the Métis people about transparency and accountability and getting the financials to the people? What about, I mean, don't grovel to a pope.
And here's the thing, they're not transparent, folks. So if you think Cassidy is transparent, she is not. Where in the hell is those MNC financials? Lisa Smith, the stuff we were talking about her, we got proof that she didn't want to answer those questions that we've been asking. And so we have proof of that, absolute proof. Challenge us on that, Lisa, if you want to. And so here's the thing. All we want is transparency from organizations. Can they turn it around? Yeah, they can turn it around. But I don't see it happening under Lisa Smith in British Columbia. I just don't see that happen. We supported her initially, and man, what a bad decision. People get into power and they seem to change, right? So I'm not really liking Lisa Smith at all, because if you want total transparency in British Columbia, folks, for all the members of the MNBC, you need to vote Lisa Smith out of office. We're going to be doing some awesome shows. We're going to be showing you a lot of stuff that will help you make the right decisions. At the end of the day, it's your vote, okay? It's your vote that matters. Then you have to make sure you vote. The problem that we have with Alberta is this: in Alberta, we had a candidate. I'm not even going to mention his name because he backed out. So we had a candidate that was projected to win. Now, who will be the candidate for Alberta that's going to go against Audrey? Because here's the thing: we don't want to get stuck with Audrey again. So if we don't have a candidate, what in the hell? We need a candidate that has supported the people and that will be transparent. You can't just get in there, take somebody's seat, and be the same way. And when we say she's not transparent, I mean we over the years we've asked M&A a lot of questions. I don't know if some of these questions reached Audrey or not, but I will say that we gotten pretty back, not a lot of answers at all from Alberta. And so, did they reach her? I don't know because she has not been accessible to us. Let's just put it that way. She's been very supportive of the non-transparent Cassidy.
But you know what? I see a lot of things on social media, and again, this is my opinion, and we all say that Cassidy likes to do photo ops and images like that. But I see a mirror image in Audrey Portress in Métis Nation of Alberta, because Audrey was in Rome with Cassidy. Audrey was in, of course, in Alberta with the Pope's visit. So just as many times as I see Cassidy's face, I see Audrey's face. So maybe that's the mentorship there. I mean, that's my
Well, what
opinion. I
about
can.
Fro? Let's don't forget Fro. Oh my God. What's going on out there in Ontario? I mean, we need to look at that too, right? We just can't forget about good old Ontario out there. What the hell is really going on? But again, we're strategically waiting for election times, and then we're waiting to see the amount of information that we're going to release at these elections these organizations are going to have, and that will help you make up your decision. Now, if you don't agree with us and you like Audrey as a president, that is your choice. We will accept it. I'll give you a perfect example. We did not like Glenn McCollum at all. We did not support Glenn McCollum as a president, but he ran an election. He was voted in, and after that happened, I mean, we had to accept it. That he became the MLS president again. So, I mean, so we do accept these things. What the people say. I mean, the vote speaks for itself, right? So we have our opinions. We're sharing our opinions with you, and we have a lot of factual information too that we're going to be putting out there, and that backs up a lot of the stuff that we're saying here. So, yeah.
And again, folks, there's a lot of misinformation being printed about Métis history. We shouldn't be political when we're talking about Métis history and culture. It should be just shared. It doesn't matter what province the person is from. If it's a Métis ancestor, they should be honored accordingly. We don't see that, and we see so many Métis leaders not serving the people, again serving themselves. And I think the takeaway from this visit to the Pope is we need to see more action than words. I mean, ask yourself, how much is the Canadian taxpayer going to be on the hook for the Pope's visit? Don't you think that money, the paving of the road and everything, that amount of money should have went to residential school survivors? I
Yeah.
mean, the Catholic Church, the Vatican, is one of the richest organizations in the world. Hopefully they fronted the bill for the whole Pope's visit. Don't you think it would have been a good gesture if they wanted to pave the road? They could have paid for it and just said, well, we're going to give this amount of money to residential school survivors. And you know what? Don't let the government of Canada get off the hook. They are they're just as much to blame as the Vatican, the Pope, the Catholic Church, because they were partnered with the Catholic Church and other religious organizations to build these residential schools. So you see Justin Trudeau in these photo ops with the Pope trying to shuffle the blame off the Canadian government. Here they're trying to sue residential school survivors. It's absolutely disgusting. Everybody that is to blame should take their ownership in the blame, and we need more action, less words. And here's a tweet from the Pope that was on July 19th, 2022, and I'm sure, Timothy, you'll comment on this after. I quote, "We must return to the essence of Christianity, the love of God, the driving force of our joy that sends us to trod the pathways of our world and welcoming our neighbor. This is the simplest and most beautiful witness we can give the world." Maybe, end of quote, maybe the Pope and the Catholic Church should have thought of that before they physically, sexually, psychologically abuse these little children, rip them from their homes.
I want to say this though. The Pope was not, of course, the Pope at the time that all these residential school things was happening. Okay, I know that the Pope has been a little bit different than other popes. So when I say the Pope is the most demonic person walking the planet, what I should say is in the history, in the seats. So I don't support Catholicism. I don't support this Pope. Catholicism has never been a Christian church. Maybe he will say, hey, let's go ahead and make Catholicism Christianity, which means they'd have to change a lot of stuff. And so, in order to make that happen, now that they've been masquerading as a Christian church, but they're not, and the Pope knows they're not, and they haven't historically been, because Catholics and Christians are different things. Again, a Christian is a follower of Christ, a Catholic is a worshiper of Christ who does not give worship to God, but says that Jesus is God, and we know that's not true.
And here's another quote that was on July 26, 2022 from the Pope, and I quote, "Dear Indigenous brothers and sisters, I have come here as a pilgrim also to say to you how precious you are to me and the church. May the Lord help us move forward in the healing process towards an ever more healthy and renewed future." End of quote. And I really think that, again, we need more action, less words. I know that he's putting all this stuff into there. But again, I really didn't like in a lot of the Pope's tweets during his visit to Canada. Again, he interchanged the word Christians and Catholic. It's really deceiving and confusing to a lot of people that don't know the Bible and don't know the difference between Catholics and Christians.
And we know a lot of Catholics, we're related to some, and we know a lot of Catholics that actually don't read their Bibles. They just go listen to the priest. And I have a friend that's actually a Catholic priest. And so I'll tell you this, and me and him's had debates before, and it's very interesting that on what his feelings were towards Catholicism too, where he felt like it wasn't the roots of true Christianity was not existing in Catholicism. And so maybe they'll make a turnaround. But when you're apologizing for such horrors that's occurred, you don't put the word Christians in there. You put the word Catholics. I know we did a show one time talking about the Catholics, and I believe one of the comments we got was, oh, it was the Christian churches too. No, it was the churches masquerading as Christians. Once you actually understand that any church that says that Jesus is God, and they don't recognize Jesus the Son of God, they just say, oh, Jesus is God, because Jesus is not God. But any church that says Jesus is God is not a Christian church. Jesus is not God. Jesus is the Son of God. So let's understand that. So don't say it's not just the Catholic Church, it was Christian churches too. No, it was other churches with very similar beliefs to Catholicism.
And again, uproar about giving the Pope a headdress. In my opinion, it would be the same way as giving Queen Elizabeth a jingle dress. How appalling. They were a part of the colonial process as well. And I think real action needs to be taken in regards to rescinding the doctrine of discovery of 1452.
So I want to go back to all these other organizations here. The other organizations, again, they could turn it around before the next elections, and they could actually be more transparent. We've been hugely disappointed with the lack of transparency. Again, there's a lot of good people in the Metis Nation of British Columbia, but you got a roadblock, and the roadblock that you have is your president. And that's the roadblock from having total transparency and be willing to answer really any questions. And so that is one of your roadblocks. We know of a couple of the others too, but for now, we're going to just talk about that. And there's a lot of good people in Alberta. But your roadblock there again is Audrey. So a lot of the presidents are the issues, but there is a couple other seats that kind of support this behavior from these presidents. And we got to get a new president in the Métis National Council, because you got to have a new president there if you want a fair national government as far as the MNC is concerned. And so Cassidy has not been transparent. You know that we've done several shows about her not releasing the financials, and basically by her still not doing that, she's telling every one of our listeners, you can kiss her ass. Essentially, that's the way we see it. because she has not released the financials. And the people, let me ask you this, don't the people have a right to know what the financials are?
Of course, they have a right to know. And I think if a lot of these Métis leaders would get off the floor from kissing colonial assholes and really serve their people, they would see a whole brighter future for Métis people with accountability, transparency. There's so much division, Métis games being played, putting Métis against Métis. It's absolutely disgusting. The Canadian government is just sitting back and laughing, everybody fighting for scraps, and it's one person has all the purse strings and people have to scrimp and save just to get what they deserve. And it's really your Métis card. Really, what does your Métis card mean if you have to fight for scraps and only certain people get any kind of funding from the Canadian or provincial government? I mean, that's not leadership. That's not leadership at all.
You want to elect the person into office that has a good character, that is not going to screw over the people, that is not greedy and wants all the money and to keep all the information from people. And all you're doing, sadly, all we've all been doing for the last, what, few decades is electing people that just want to get rich. You need to elect leaders that actually want to serve the people.
And again, a leader of a national organization is not a mentorship position. You need somebody that's strong, can hit the ground running, transparent, accountable to the people, and is just not worried about photo ops flying here or there. It is not a mentorship position. You don't have time for that. You've got to take the reins and you've got to serve the people, not serve the camera.
And yeah, and let me tell you, to everybody in the Métis Nation of British Columbia specifically, I know that y'all don't know, so some of y'all do not know a lot of the stuff that's went down in the background, but we will show you in the upcoming elections a lot of this stuff and a lot of information that will make a little bit of this, what we've been saying, this show more clear. And you got to understand that your president has avoided questions. We're not just saying that. Keep in mind, we were a supporter of Lisa in the beginning there. Okay? So she has been avoiding our questions and we were supporting her. So you can, so, and and we have a lot of information that, that will make this very, very, very clear uh, very soon. So you definitely want a president that will speak to all media. All media. Doesn't matter. And we have the numbers. We can make the difference. Your vote does matter. Make sure everybody everywhere gets all your paperwork together where you can make the difference and give the votes. That's very, very important.
And again, folks, you have to have a leader that's going to truly serve the people. And if a leader avoids questions from Métis people, you've got red flags right there, because the truth should be able to roll off their tongue very easy. They don't have to have meetings about this or that. Can we answer this and that? The truth is the truth, and it's being accountable to your people. And that's what we need. That's what's severely lacking across the Métis Nation. Right across Canada, we have people that are not serving the people, they're serving their own agenda.
And what's very disappointing is how many of these organizations have employed non-Métis. Now, we're not saying these organizations should never hire anybody that's not Métis. What we're saying is the sheer numbers of people that they've hired that is not Métis is very, very disappointing. And again, we support MMBC. We just don't support Lisa Smith. We have no support for Lisa Smith because we know what type of person she is.
And again, folks, like I said, elections will be coming up. We know that the Métis Nation of Alberta, their election was postponed for a year for whatever. I mean, if you got there's something going on behind the scenes. But like I said, we have shows coming up that's going to really raise your eyebrows with documented proof. And you're going to sit back and not being able to really comprehend the smoke and mirrors that are going on in a lot of Métis organizations.
Yeah, and again, people could turn it around. You could turn it around. M&A, MMBC, M&S, M&O, y'all can all turn things around and just start answering the people's questions. We don't invent the questions. You need to understand the process. People contact us. with questions concerning their organizations. And then we start to ask the questions. To represent them, we ask the questions. And to not for you not to answer the questions is very disrespectful to your own citizens. And so, but you can turn it around and try to build a better relationship with the people, your citizens in every area. And I know that they got supporters. Obviously, they're going to have supporters, and that's true. And we hear the complaints, but unfortunately, we're not hearing a lot of positives coming out of anywhere. The M&O, the MNBC, the M&A, or the M&S. We're not hearing a lot of positives. So if you take, all right, let's break it down per area. So if you get 100 emails from people, from citizens per organization, right? So if we get 100 emails per an organization, maybe only 2 or 3 of them will say something good. The other 98, 97 of them is complaints. So what are we supposed to think? And then when we reach out to certain people and we get the responses that we get, it's like, good God, you see how they're treating their own citizens, and that's just not good, man. That's not good.
Well, again, this is my opinion. I really think that the Métis National Council, with all the other organizations veering towards self-government, uh, there is no need for the MNC, the Métis National Council. There is no need for this organization. They are not transparent. They are not accountable, and it's not all about smiling for the camera and jetting here and jetting there. There's no need for the MNC. Again, my opinion,
Not if
folks.
you got Cassidy leading it. It's useless. There is no need for it. Man, I'm just going to end it there because
Yeah, we gotta just cut it off before because there's just been a lot of negative things about the Métis National Council. There's really nothing positive other than photo ops, really.
and that's not even positive. Are you kidding? Are you kidding me? I got to use Visine after I see it. My thing is this. I was going to tell you that y'all see it. We've asked for the MNC to release financial information, and the fact that they haven't, that's not good. And they still haven't. They've had plenty of time. I think our last show was almost 2 months ago. That's because we've been doing other things. Alexandria is doing another thing. It's another show, and it's really really good. And I really like that show. And I've actually enjoyed the little bit of a break that we had from doing this show. But we got other things going on in our life other than doing this show. But keep in mind, whenever an election comes up, oh man, we're going to be putting out so many shows. We're just waiting. We are waiting, but we'll keep doing these shows. We're not going anywhere. So we're going to be here for the people. And if these organizations want to represent the people, the Métis people, just be transparent. I mean, we're the biggest Métis media outlet out there. We're the biggest. And if you're avoiding us, that speaks volumes.
Well, talking about Métis organizations, I mean, we have to agree we've had different of opinions with the Manitoba Métis Federation, but they are doing a lot of good things for their community, building all this and going here and that. So, I mean, we would like to see a lot more of the other Métis organizations be positive things, do positive things instead of, kissing the ass of a colonialist, really.
And we've seen a lot of change. I mean, over the years, if y'all known us, we've been doing this for 5 years or more. If you've been following us for that long, and again, this channel is not 5 years old, but we've been on other channels, and so we've been doing this for 5 years, and this channel's replaced the other channels. But I will tell you that you know it, that we've been the biggest critic of the MMF, the Manitoba Métis Federation. And we've seen a lot of positive changes. And when organizations change, we give them compliments. Now, a lot of the people that follow us because they hate the MMF, a lot of these people that follow us because of that reason, they don't appreciate that we're making the compliments. But when we see change, you got to recognize the change. You just can't. The point here is it's not about hatred. It's not about grudges. It's not about being against somebody forever. What it is about causing change, making transparency out there, having these organizations be transparent and being fair and doing the right things. And we've seen a lot of positive stuff coming from the MMF. And again, there's no love lost between a lot of those leaders and us. I can guarantee you that.
But again, folks, you have to report the positive. You can't be biased and not report it, because recently the MMF has been doing a lot of community engagements, engaging the people, and you don't see that with the other organizations. Is going to these places and asking the people what they want, etc. So
Yeah.
that's something that's refreshing, and it's just we've got to report the good with the bad, and to share it and be unbiased when we report on stories.
And that was refreshing. It was actually good. Don't think it went unnoticed. We noticed it, and yeah, we just say, oh, okay, yeah, we see what we've done wrong. Now we're going to try to go forward in a different direction and do something more. So, like Alexandra was saying, get the input from the citizens. Which, if you ignore your citizens, what the hell kind of leader are you? So you definitely want to do what the MMF is actually doing now. And again, these other organizations could start doing it. Get input from your citizens. Your citizens do matter.
So again, folks, there was a lot to unpack with the recent papal visit to Canada, July 24th to July 29th, 2022. And we sort of give our opinions on some of the things that were happening all over social media. Again, action is needed more than words, folks.
Yep.
More action.
And everybody's got a right to speak out against their governments, their organizations, because you got a right to voice your opinions, your concerns, your complaints. Voice them. You got a right to do that. Any government organization or any Metis organization that tries to silence you from doing that, they are completely wrong.
It's not democracy, folks. Take care.
Later.